legitimate foundation for shows.
Well, if I have learned anything after 4 or some odd years and almost, forgot the count of the shows. We're over 500. Can't remember the number. You think I'd figure it out by now. So I told somebody the other day, after 35 years in the real estate business, you think I would know what I was talking about.
Well, you know what you're talking about. Scott Morris is in the house. We will chitter-chatter with Scotty Moe here in a matter of moments when the cameras go on. Judah Wickower, the director of this fine and fair talk show. J-Dubs, we can rock and roll when you're ready. Guys, welcome to Real Talk. It's a Wednesday morning. Thank you kindly for joining us. Great to connect with you guys through the I Love Seville Network. Today, a show presenting Keith Smith and Scott Morris, showcasing Keith Smith and Scott Morris, I should say. You, the viewer and listener, can offer some perspective. You can influence the dialogue and the topic matter on the program. The show is archived and broadcasted across social media, so we encourage the discussion. We give props to Ross Mortgage for being a part of today's show as well. Judah Wickower is our director. Judah, if you can go to the studio camera and then a 3-shot, let's welcome our panel of experts. Fellas, good Wednesday morning.
Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
How's everything going, Scott?
At my age, getting up out of bed and getting your feet on the deck and getting your first bike ride in since the one I did out in Seattle and Portland, I'm feeling good.
That's good.
If you want to ask about my tush, it's okay.
I asked you about that on Monday. It looks like recovery has happened for you.
It has happened. Recovery has happened. I am back out and about, getting ready to train for another one.
That's fantastic. Scott Morris, last time we saw you was 7 days ago. It was a lively talk show on a Wednesday morning this past week. How has the week treated you?
Going well, man. Just running around doing all the things, dude. Little kids, gearing up for kindergarten, and my son's about to turn 3. Work stuff, we got new contracts coming in, people we're helping, just doing all the things.
Fantastic.
How's your contact to conversion rate going?
It's still, it's still, lags. It's got a lot of people out there, especially in that first-time buyer bucket, that they're either having a difficult time finding a property that they're happy with because what they thought $400,000 to $500,000 bought them 3 or 4 years ago, they're just not there. I've got some that are well qualified, but they want to be, they're looking for a deal. They're looking for like a walk-in, key turn ready, $250,000 property, and it's just not what they're. Some of it's expectations, and a lot of it's inventory.
Well, it mentioned inventory on because again, Jerry taught me how to do this. I took a picture of our market monitor. We had 7 days going back Monday. We had 66 homes come on the market. I'm looking at it right now. That number's down to 53. So we're going in the wrong direction. The interesting thing is the pendings are flat. The pendings are on Monday was 55. Today it's 56, and the solds are pretty much flat also. 73 on Monday, and today is 70. So, units are coming off the market. Inventory is dropping. I don't know if we ever got a solution to it. Inventory. I'm somewhat getting more
demoralized. That's the word you're looking for.
I'm looking for. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'm getting more and more concerned that my prediction is going to be right, which is I don't think inventory is going to get better for many years to follow.
Okay, we'll throw this to you guys. Scott, jump in after this here. It's clear the political capital is not there for new developmental inventory in Central Virginia. I mean, it's not happening in Albemarle. It's not going to happen. There's nowhere to go in the Charlottesville city. Fluvanna, your boy Fairchild, both your boys, has said it's not going to happen on his watch.
Unless it's by right.
Unless it's by right. That's what he said. Where are we going to get the inventory? Where are we going to find it? We got Powell today at what, 2 o'clock with another rate hike. Everyone's on the same page here, 25 bips for this rate hike at 2 o'clock. The speculation or the expectation, depending on how where you gamble, is that Powell is not going to do any more rate hikes for the rest of the year.
Seems everybody's saying that.
That's what everybody seems to be saying.
I even said it.
You did?
But I'm like, I think they could. I don't know.
So you're getting off it?
I'm starting to lean into. So here's what they're going to come out and they're going to tease it and they're going to make everybody think that is what they're going to do, because that's what they've got to lean into that, because they don't want inflation bouncing back. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen, because then they'd be forced to go to 7 instead of 5.5. And but they're going to come out and say that it's going to be data dependent. But I think that potentially they could go one more. I've long said that they only had one in them, and now I'm like.
So you're seeing a potential Q4 rate hike of 25 bips.
Yeah.
And it's the Q4 rate hike of 25 bips to basically put the lid on the boiling pot of water and keep it from overflowing. Mm-hmm. That's what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying.
So, Keith, thoughts on that?
That
would jump rates.
Yeah. So, well, I still believe that may happen. I also believe in the beginning of next year that's going to start getting reversed, right? I really do. And look, I'm still always been on board with you with the 30-year fixed rate. I think you're going to start seeing it come back down on it. But let's talk about that for a second. So we're at 7 plus, right? Plus or minus 30-year mortgage.
7 and an 8.
But you're still getting phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But because people still, look.
Are people getting more comfortable with interest rates at that point? Or we've kind of turned the corner a little bit on that, or are folks?
There are people they've come to terms that if they want to do the things, whatever the things are, this is what they've got to deal with, and they're open to the opportunity to refinance in the future. And the limited inventory has kept values where they are, because people just don't. They're not gonna not people. That they're gonna get divorced. They're gonna do the things that people do that create real estate transactions. And as we go into, I've got people who are reaching out for refinances with rates that they just didn't think that they would expose themselves to, because they've got different problems to solve. As long as people have problems, the rate doesn't matter to an extent. It certainly is a large part of what has people trapped in their homes at the moment that's causing the inventory problem that we have. And what I mean by that is people can't qualify for the same amount of value, or they can't qualify for the same house, because that house has accelerated in value and rates are double what they were when they purchased 3 years ago.
So you're just expanding compounding.
So they can't transition, but they can, they can take some money out, they can pay off bills. Taylor Averett was just on NBC 29 talking about how people are locked into their homes. I think NBC 29 didn't do a great job of explaining or kind of editing that to show what he was talking about.
They got like 10 seconds.
I wouldn't lie. It's a 15-second clip. I feel so bad for the legacy media.
Yeah, and
how can you explain this in 15 seconds?
Yeah, we do it an hour and a half. We've been doing it an hour and a half for years and still can't figure it out.
And whoever the anchor was,
it may be us though, Jerry. Jerry, it could be us.
Let's listen to Taylor talk about the lock-in effect, and it's not even exactly. Anyways, the whole thing. He did a great job. They could have edited that a little better. But I look on all these these private groups and message boards, and there's like people who are just waking up to this thought. They're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like this until rates come down. It's like, duh. Like I've been like standing on top of a mountain, like screaming it, and
So Jerry and I got into a debate on Monday about this because this. and we talked about this years ago, or when the 3% happened, that, hey, don't get used to it on the show. This isn't a good thing, right? You know, and lo and behold, that's where we're at right now. But the reality of it is, there's this fear from the sellers, because I'm seeing it. We're actively communicating with folks trying to sell and list their homes because they have to, right? Divorces, job relocations, downsizing. They are moving, and they feel trapped. This is what I think what you're talking about. They're trapped by the 3%. It was really cool at the time. It was really cool at what's going on. So he and I are going to debate about this.
I don't think that's the case.
Well, all I can tell you is what I'm being told.
Yeah.
Right? They feel trapped because of what you just outlined. Because, oh God, I need to move to a bigger house. I can't afford it because it's raised up. And oh, by the way, I can't afford it because it's at 7% instead of 3%. So now they feel trapped. And oh, by the way, they're looking at renovations and stuff like that, which is ISC is the perfect
Interstate
folks,
Service Company.
Perfect folks to call on.
Nicely done, Keith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've learned a little bit.
Okay,
a little bit.
I'll throw this to you guys. I'll get out of the way.
Yeah,
Scott
you're gonna push
Thorpe,
back.
I'm gonna mention your comment, Scott Thorpe, and Vinny Reddy on Instagram. I'm gonna mention your DM here in a matter of moments. I want to highlight some folks watching, including Jeremy Rowe,
Hey,
Lonnie
Jeremy.
Murray, Bob Yarborough, Laura Fonner, Bill McChesney, Bellamy Brown, Michael Pruitt,
Hello, Marine.
Jamie Turner, Woody Fincham, Georgia Gilmer, Chad Wood, Jeffrey Fogel, Neil Williamson, Thomas Leroy, just to name a few. Here's the comment from Scott Thorpe, who is a commercial real estate broker. He says, you guys talk on your network and on your shows that when rates drop to this 4 to 5%, 5.5% range, that it's going to jumpstart inventory and get more inventory on the market, because those of us that secured like a 2.75% mortgage, we will feel more compelled to list our house. Scott Thorpe predicts this, commercial broker. What could actually happen is the folks that have the massive stacks of equity from a 2.75% mortgage and then saw their house appreciate 30 to 40% in value, that those folks are in a financial position that is way better than any other housing cycle over the last couple generations. And he predicts that these folks, us, are going to rent our homes. And we're going to rent our homes at price points each month that are 2x what our overhead is for those homes. And then we're going to take
At the 3%.
at the 2.75% to 2.25%.
Yeah, agreed.
So
100%.
he's saying the rent delta is so large right now with our personal residences that you can get 2x the rent. And then these folks are going to scoop up more inventory. So they're going to be not opening the flood of inventory is his prediction. Now listen to this one from an economist at UVA that was thrown to me. Okay, this is a DM from an economist at UVA. What if the folks sitting on paying mortgages choose to buy more houses when the interest rates fall, instead of what you predicted, Jerry, of it opening more inventory? So here you have an economist and a commercial broker
Saying the same thing.
Saying the same thing.
So let's pick the commercial broker apart.
Yeah.
Scott, right? So I own a home. We're doing a case study.
Yeah.
I own a home. I paid $400,000. I'm picking a number. I paid $400,000 for it, right? I put 20% down, or whatever the heck I did on all that stuff, and I've got a 3% mortgage on that. And now I want to buy a new home. What does that look like for me? What do I got to do?
Will there be people who do that, who operate in that model? Yes. Will it be
Huge? No.
20%? No.
Because why do I have
like
to?
10%.
So I have to have.
You guys are taking the human element away from this. Look, I don't mean this in like a negative Nancy or a mean way. I'm not being a big meanie, but people are dumb. They don't operate in their best interest most of the time. They make emotional-based decisions and rationalize it after the fact. It's just, stop it. Like, that's not how people operate. They're going to they'll make a choice, and a lot of that choice is not driven by well-guided,
it's impulse decision making.
It's impulse decision making.
Yeah.
And
I give you that.
Yeah, there'll be 10% of those people will want to be a landlord, and they'll have a plan, and they'll be driven to do this, and they are already off better financially than 80% of the other of the population. But your bulk of those people who are in those mortgages and in those situations are going to run up debt. They're going to need to clear the debt. They don't want to be landlords. They don't understand how it works. When you tell them how it works, they still won't get it. They'll sell the house. They'll move on to the next thing. Like that.
100%. I think a majority of the people that will there be a percentage of people that do that? Absolutely, there will be. These are going to be sophisticated buyers, sophisticated sellers. They're going to understand.
Sitting on more wealth
They're going to understand.
than few housing cycles have sat
And
on.
I have said over and over
But
again,
don't there-
as rates fall, the most competitive price point is going to be the low end, where people who can or want to become investors are going to be competing against the first-time home buyer.
That's what the economists and Scott Thorpe have
Okay,
just
so
said.
just what these two gentlemen are talking about here, over there. What do I have to do? My LTV,
Loan value.
my debt to income has to support two houses.
Not necessarily.
Kinda.
Not necessarily.
Okay, pick that apart.
So you're going to you can qualify for 75% of of the rental income into the next property
75%.
for the investment purchase. But we're assuming that the house is paid off. Maybe they refi.
Well, I'm not assuming the house is
No.
paid off.
I think here's what I think the model
I think
is.
there's a net.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think here the model is, and for the sake of easy numbers, let's just use the $1 million number. Okay. Why don't we use that? Would make it easy.
That's a lot of zeros.
All right. Why don't we make it let's million is easier for me. 10's here. So you do it's $1 million number. You owe maybe 300 to 400K. Your home massively appreciated in value, 30%. So that means someone's jumping in at a 700K clip, put 20% down at that 700K clip. You're looking at a delta of what you owe the bank and what your home is valued at of $700,000. You could utilize that if you wanted to.
So
and you get the 75%
Do you know what the
on rent.
income has to be for the
Are we
individual?
talking about renting? Are
to
we talking
afford
about?
that?
Are we going to turn?
Well, he's about to tell us.
Are we talking? No, here's my question.
I would have done the 100,000 a lot easier. Smaller number for smaller brain.
Are we talking about? We're going to turn the old primary into the rental.
The primary turns into the rental.
So
yeah.
Glenmore is going to
Yeah.
become a rental community.
Not saying Glenmore.
I'm saying Glenmore.
How about Lake Monticello?
Lake Monticello
Is
is
already
and
a
has
rental
been
community.
a rental community for the last 20 years.
So maybe that's a better example. Someone bought
I
a
rented
home,
in '87, so since '87.
Okay.
someone who bought a home at the beginning of COVID at Lake Monticello for $250K. That happened all the time,
Yep.
all day, every day.
That-
That home is now four and change.
Let's call it. Let's make math
385.
simple. Let's call they bought it at 200. It's worth 300 now. Let's just figure
Okay.
they got 100
I think
grand.
that's conservative.
We're going to be conservative here.
Okay, and they're monthly not on a $200,000 house when at the beginning of COVID at 2.75%. What is that monthly
$1,200
not?
Yeah, but
like
that-
$800, $900,
$1,200.
$1,200.
But that-
1,200 with let's
But
say
Jerry,
let's-
that buyer who's buying a home for $200,000 to $300,000 isn't making enough income to support two houses. They're the firemen, they're the policemen, they're all. You've got to have enough residual capital to go ahead and go and buy that. I just don't see them.
Do you think he can't use the loan?
So I'm
They can, but there's not enough people who are going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just not in a financial place where they can.
Well, they're
If
too busy
let's say,
raising
let's, all right,
kids.
let's say they are, and let's say they're a state trooper, or they work for the state. Their retirement money's trapped in VRS, the Virginia Retirement System. They can't pull those funds to execute a real estate transaction. So while they have some retirement, it's locked up. The equity is in the house. I'm saying there will be a percentage of people, a smaller percentage than what is being kind of driven home here, that do this. And absolutely, those people, and then the people who want to become real estate investors and the people who already are real estate investors will be competing for lower price point homes against the first-time home buyer. I've been saying that.
You have been.
But there is the people who need to capitalize on their equity are going to use those funds to transition into another house, pay off debt, and downsize. They're not gonna be gobbling up all of the real estate.
So we got comments coming in.
So real
you wanna
quick,
get 'em.
back on primary reason for purchasing a home. This is from NAR's 2023 report, National
Yeah.
Association of Realtors. So it's 137 pages, but there's one slide in there. Primary reasons for purchasing a home. Just to put a button in that. there's 20 reasons, top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Desire to own a home, desire to be closer to family, retirement, desire for a home in a better area, desire for employment, change in family status, marriage, birth, child, divorce. So that's the top 5. The bottom one on 20 is financial security. So to Scott's point, people move because of these particular reasons. And while you ask the question, I'm going to look at top reason for people to sell.
Diana Banks, thank you for watching the program. John Blair, thank you for watching the show. Jason Howard on Rio Road. He makes the comment, we plan to rent our current home once we build our forever home. The next door neighbors rented their current home before moving last year, and they were getting 3x their mortgage payment. This comment is present. This comment has come in from Grayson, who's watching in North Downtown. Why would someone sell a house that has a financing instrument of under 3% tied to it? This has come from Woody Fincham. He agrees with Scott. It's a different opinion. I agree with Scott. We are still doing refinances where many folks are paying off debt for lifestyle decisions and not building wealth. That's what Scott has said. This comment is coming on Spotify. Why would we sell our house if our interest rate is at a rate that we will never see again during our lives?
I had an interesting conversation with
Michelle Sneed has also got a comment.
With Susan Reel with Ally Property Management. She's starting
partner of the show.
Partner of the show. Yeah. She's starting to see some of what we're in the industry as mom and pop rentals, people that just have one, starting to put, we talked about this on the show earlier, starting to think about putting their houses on the market because they never put enough money aside for HVAC, roofs, and all that stuff. It's not a huge number, but it's a couple.
But it happens that, and as soon as somebody becomes a landlord and they have to deal with a major housing expense in the investment property, they go, do I even really want to be doing this? And the money that, and I get, the dream is big, baby, and I think anybody who has the will and want to do it, we can go help execute, but it's not for everybody. And
if you can do it, it's freaking genius, right? You know, and you get Suzanne to manage it for you. I don't even know I have the one rental I have on it.
She manages the condo for us.
And, you know, it works, but that's when you need, back to trusted advisors. That's
we get in a situation where you get the wrong group of people in government, and all of a sudden you've got renters who don't have to pay you. You might change your or you get the wrong tenant one time.
Man, I tell you what,
talk to people all the time who got into something and then they got out of it because it wasn't what they thought it would be. And that doesn't happen with just owning real estate. That happens with people who choose professions and jobs and sports and activities and hobbies all of the time. And each time one of these things happen, a set of golf clubs goes up for sale.
Peloton.
Somebody's ready to get rid of rackets at the club. Whatever this stuff happens. And this is part of what makes us human and creates all of these transactions in life.
Man. Talk about that. Yvonne turned me on to Facebook Marketplace. I didn't even know that it existed.
Oh, yeah.
On Saturday and Sunday, I'm going with my trailer and my truck, and we're like furnishing a whole house.
Is this item still available?
I don't know. All I know is I was told to show up with the truck and the trailer.
Michelle Schneid, she says, it's such an unusual climate. Usually history repeats itself. But I don't think it will repeat itself in this situation. I think it's a situation we've never seen before.
Michelle, spot on. That's what I've been saying forever. This 3% has put a factor in the market that I haven't seen since 1987.
This is what happens when the government intervenes with the free enterprise.
And when it happened, that it wasn't a good thing. I couldn't figure out what was going to be the problem, but that's just too low. Primary reasons for selling a home: want to move closer to friends and family, retirement, neighborhoods less desirable, house too small, change family situation, marriage, divorce.
Bob Yarborough, the king of the Redfields neighborhood, is watching. He says, I'm feeling Scott's surliness right now. This is a funky market for sure. Bob Yarborough watching.
Think about this. For the people who would be moving, let's say you're moving to Florida and you have a house here and you don't, because all your family's in Florida, or whatever the state is, the chances of you retaining this property as a rental and moving to another state are so low. Even if you can, you're not there for it. Most people just aren't going to do that.
You also have to factor in an age thing. You hit
Out of market is a different story than staying within market.
Yeah.
But I will give you that.
you hit a certain age, and you just don't want to take care of stuff, right? And you just don't want to take care of a second. I had a conversation with a client looking to put their house on the market. Don't want to cut grass no more, right? You know, they're about my age, old.
How many people want to cut grass at 100 degrees in Central Virginia with 80% humidity anyways? Not most people
In their
don't.
70s.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
There's not that many that want to do that. Okay, so we've covered that topic. I see the comments coming in. We'll get to them here in a matter of moments. How about the topic of how quickly, and it's coming on the feed, how quickly will rates drop till that 5% range then, fellas?
I say
What's a crystal ball? That's what they're
I
asking.
say it starts first quarter and possibly fourth quarter of this year. It's really dependent upon whether or not they make that final rate hike going into the fall. What happens with inflation, with the 5% raise in interest the Fed has made in the last 12 months, and kind of where we land.
Julie Ballard giving both you
Hey,
guys
Julie.
props
Hey,
right
Julie.
now on the
What's
program.
up, Miss? How are you?
So Scott
Dinah
sees
Banks, how are you?
the realtors that are watching. Scotty Moe, Ross Mortgage sees rates dropping in the first quarter. Keith
So
Smith.
the question to the realtors that are watching, what do you think that's going to do to your market? What do you think that's going to do to your business? Is it going to open up inventory? Or is it like what the economists and some of the other folks are saying, that folks are going to kind of pivot and buy a second house and keep their rental? It'd be really interesting, but this is uncharted. I mean, I can't create a chart for this, right? Because there's no historical
I kind
data
of got a chuckle
to
out
go
of
against.
it, but so it's earnings season in the corporate world, and Whirlpool's CEO came out and said they are well positioned to take advantage of rising inventory in the housing market. It was in their earnings statement as far as what they were doing with the business, and it's like, that's great that you've got this manufacturing output that you're prepared for, but what are we going to do exactly to get there is the question.
Who's going to buy them?
That's what I'm saying.
Who's going to buy them? Look, it's at one point in time we banned the word and we decided we can't ban
how
it
can we
anymore.
ban it?
We
Yeah.
can't ban
It's
it.
the number one factor right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Inventory.
and it's multiple factors that kind of gets there. I'm just, the more in depth I go with the local jurisdictions about projects that are coming up, new construction projects coming up, the more Debbie Downer I'm becoming, that the likelihood of any new substantially large projects or an increase in new construction, I'm unfortunate. I'm stuttering to say it. I want it to be true that we're going to be able to come up with a solution and new projects are going to work, but it's just not going to happen. You're not going to
But we've known this.
Yeah, I know.
We've known this.
But I'm just I've been
There's
a
a
little.
reason Ann Malik is going to get elected to her 5th term. That's 20 straight years of
Yeah.
managing an Albemarle County budget.
Well, it's also hard to unseat a incumbent that
5
entrenched.
terms?
Yeah, entrenched. But yeah, I just, I'm on one hand, I'm super excited about the market because I know in order to get transactions to happen and help people buy and sell, you need skills. You need a Ross Mortgage. You need a Scott Morris. You need people on our partner tab on Real Talk with Keith Smith. You need these folks to make it happen. It requires skill to do it. But emotionally, when you're talking to buyers and sellers don't want to sell because they're frightened, right? They're scared. They're frightened. I mean, that's what they're at. They're frightened to sell.
I don't think
Are they scared to
Oh, they are.
Are they scared to sell, or are they just concerned that they're not going to have something to buy?
That's a very
so that's a
different
fear.
feeling.
That's a fear.
I don't think that's fear.
Okay.
I think that's being
I
astute.
sit at enough kitchen tables and student of body language to know.
Isn't that called being astute and knowing where the market is doing?
Well,
Basically, what Scott Morris is saying is, if I sell
but
my
I got to
current
move.
crib,
I got to move. I have to move.
We're discounting those folks. We know that those people
but
that have to
you can't
move will
discount them,
move.
Jerry, because that's the largest percentage of people who have to move.
Yeah, we're not saying that. We completely agree with you. The
What
people
about-
that have to move will move.
What about the people who have gone out? And this is, I find, I'm running into, talking to a lot of these lately. People who've gone out and they've purchased some land and they've got a dream and they want to build a house.
Sure.
I've got some that are just living in trailers on their land because they don't know how to complete the process. What does that look like for them? So if we know that developments aren't coming along, but people can build their own house, what does it look like for them getting started in finding a contractor and building their homestead on their 5 acres of land somewhere?
That's almost as hard as inventory, right? There's not enough. There's a few handful of builders out there that'll do it. You got to finance it, right? Because typically those builders don't have a huge line of credit, right? So you've got to figure out how you're going to finance unless you've got a pocket full of cash. So you got to figure out how to finance it. You got to figure out what the builder is going to be there. Then you're going to go through the process of, oh my God, I thought I could afford a 2,000 square foot house, but maybe I'm really only buying a 1,200 square foot house. So all these pieces of the puzzle come together, but it starts with, how do I finance it, right? How do I fund it? And can I find a builder who's willing to do it?
Now, could they do something like?
And there's no land for sale.
Well, I think his example
You're saying
is
if you already own it?
he owns it and he's
Okay.
got a trailer.
Okay. Right now in Albemarle County, there's no land for sale. I mean, Kerber, our client at Dominion Custom Homes, the developer of Prophet Ridge, has, is it 3 lots left that we're moving? 3?
Yeah.
3 lots at Prophet
And
Ridge?
that's about it.
Fine in Albemarle County right now on the MLS. I'm on the MLS every day. A lot that you can build a home on.
Yeah, it's finding a parcel to build a home on that's not in a subdivision, that isn't laden with HOAs.
Right.
Which isn't laden with huge covers and restrictions.
Or even find a parcel of
Then
land.
you got to get it to perk. Then you got to.
Even a parcel of land in Albemarle County that isn't a subdivision.
That's the point I'm making.
I mean, those don't even exist.
That's the
I mean,
point
you
I'm
got
making.
2 in my neighborhood. Albemarle County, or Fluvanna at Lake Monticello. How many you got left?
Yeah.
And are they even buildable?
Yeah. It depends on who you talk to. You know,
That's why we're making this PR push with Prophet Ridge here. He may have the most coveted pieces of property, dirt left, parcels left in Albemarle County.
And you're seeing this shift, right? You're seeing this shift going on where people, if they can afford it and can't find an existing home, they're shifting. That's the reason new construction is peaking.
To what he's doing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Comments coming fast and furious. We're going to get to them as much as quickly as possible. This is a good one from Kevin. Scott and Keith. And Kevin, I really appreciate this comment. What caused this monumental shift in inventory in your professional opinions? We weren't in this position 3 or 4 years ago.
So that would be, we are talking about why there's less inventory.
We're talking rates. We covered that.
Okay.
Yeah. Political capital.
So
rates.
what he's saying is
In 2019, we didn't have this throttling or governing governing meaning a golf cart slowing it down or pinch of inventory is what he's saying. And we've kind of covered this. The rates went down, so people bought homes, and now it's called dead inventory. They don't want to list them.
So the second part of that is we got caught up to us that we went from 2 million, just nationwide, we went from building 2 million new units a year to 10 years of 300,000 to 400,000. And it's just been, the snowball has caught up with us because as new construction comes on, it helps relieve the pressure off of existing inventory increases. I can tell you, I'm going to have to go ahead and pull up a different slide, but if you can go on Real Talk with Keith Smith on the markets, and you can take a look at the car footprint and the volume of sales, because volume and sales and inventory kind of go hand in hand, right? It's in theory. It's hard for us with Paragon because I can't go back and look at 2019 and find out what was active in that week. We don't have the ability to do that. I can look at what's sold on it, but yeah, it's all these different factors that are hitting it, and I think it's going to take 5 or 10 years for it to correct itself.
Jeff Stees, I believe is an architect watching the program, said that, Jerry, I'm meeting with the new client tomorrow. She bought 2 lots out on Pounding Creek Road. So he highlights that there is activity happening here in the market. This is an intriguing question that's come in. Jerry, I just looked at the MLS, and you're right, there are no lots that you could conceivably build on. Where does Keefe think the new building and new construction will happening, not developments, but just onesies and twosies?
Yeah, so I mean, the by rights will allow you to do that in all the jurisdictions, and you will see onesies and twosies, and we can take a look at that a little bit later. A lot of it is going to depend on Scott's side of the house. How do you fund it, right?
Was the financing for new construction tightening considerably?
No, the financing, like qualifications, haven't changed. We're finding there's some quirky stuff that's probably coming for self-employed borrowers with verification of employment and confirming their businesses should operate, things of that nature, but nothing significant is happening on that front. I'm more in line to talk about kind of how did we get in this position. When we look at Virginia in the last 20 years, we've gone up from a state population of 6 million to 8.5 million. And we're not seeing that same, what we're talking about is those areas are primarily going to be Virginia Beach, Northern Virginia, and then Central Virginia, from Richmond, Charlottesville, those areas. And they haven't been able to support the level of population growth with units available. And that's what we're suffering through. And that's part of the new construction problem. The local jurisdictions don't have the support for that growth in schools and fire and police and emergency services. So that's where we are. So what amazes me is the fact that there's not land in Albemarle for people to independently build on. So where do they look? Where do we go for growth from here? Is it Goochland? Are these more rural counties who still don't have that infrastructure available to support the growth, but they've got the land? What is the next step?
It's a good question.
Yeah, so it's all those things. It's also the political will.
I think that's the first step.
That's the real thing. So, look, I've talked about this for a while. Greene County is going to see the next biggest growth, and then it's going to hit a brick wall. And it's starting to hit that brick wall already, right? Because, there's going to be this mass of X number of new construction units. There's going to be not the political capital to go ahead and approve any more projects. You'll end up doing some by rights, and by rights are anywhere from 1 to 5. Right, units per thing, and you might see some of that. It's just not going to move the needle substantially. There's all these little things that'll happen. Right, interest rates will drop a little bit. Right, we might see a couple new construction units come on it, and the needle might move a little bit. But unless there is a concerted effort from the political side of the house to go ahead and really increase density or increase housing, we're going to be at this region
But with
here.
an increase in density, specifically like with what they're doing in Charlottesville, isn't that just creating more apartment buildings, and it's not creating?
No, not really. Most, I can't remember the exact percentage of it, but
It's
almost.
just making the zoning more flexible. So the landowner and the house owner, property owner, has more options with what they can do.
It's like 60 to 80, I can't remember the exact number, but it's between 60 to 80% of it is single-family detached, which allows you to do X number of units in it. The apartment complex, the multifamily thing, there's not a huge swath of the map, of the flum, that allows you to do that on it. So where the majority of it is single family. And I just came back from Seattle. You're not going to see a lot of it. They didn't see a lot of it out there. You're probably not going to see it. To quote Neil Williamson,
He's watching.
You'll see onesies and twosies, right? Mayor
So
Snook.
if you were someone who had the capital to take on a large project, why would your incentive not to be to build apartments and create more renters than it would be homeowners? And what local government isn't doing anything to support anything outside of that model?
Because
That's what I've been saying for years.
So the ability for somebody, the pool of the folks that can actually do an apartment complex, multi-story, it's a whole different, the fire rate, it's a whole different source of construction, right? It's more of a commercial construction. The folks that can
He's
do
saying
this,
it's super expensive. That's what he's
understand.
saying.
it's
Super expensive.
well, the pool of people of companies that could do that. Now, converting.
But we've already said that there's not enough land to support the local small builder or the mid-sized builder. So if they've got no incentive to operate inside of that territory, the only people who have focus would be people who can.
With deep pockets. Yeah. And that's who's doing it now, and that's who will continue to
Take
do
it a step further.
So
What's that going to do to the market?
It's going to continue. It's going to create more. Glenmore is not going to turn into a rental because the people who own the house and could take the next step don't have a Farmington to move into. It's just going to continue to lock up inventory, and it's going to push people. It's going to create a migration. There will have to be. Louisa's been more flexible than Fluvanna when it comes to growth.
That's changing, brother.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
It will push people from that north-south 29 corridor more east and west on 64. Your Stanton, your Waynesboro, your Goochland, Louisa, Powhatan will become your sources of growth for inventory. That's where the land is. The municipalities will have to get on board as that continues to happen because somebody will take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I know this world well, and you're 100% right on that end of it. Greene County is kind of the new bubble right now, right? That's going to fade out.
Michelle called Greene County the new Lake Monticello. In a lot of ways, yes.
Yeah, but it's going to hit its saturation point here pretty quickly, I think. And then you're 100% right. And so it goes to the path of least resistance, right? It goes to where it's available, where the rules are that work, where there's a ready, willing, and able property owner, because that's where it starts, to quote Neil, to sell a piece of property. And then you got to work through the system. And this other than...
we know that that's a 6-year runway.
Jeff says on Twitter DM, and I have another client building on a lot overlooking the James River, 2 miles south of Scottsville and Buckingham. However, the problem is finding an affordable builder who will go out that far to build the home.
How are you going to finance it? If it's cash, great. How are you going to finance it, and who are you going to get to build it? And oh, by the way, when I'm the builder, not only does Jerry have to qualify, I got to qualify as the builder because you're going to end up paying, a lot of people don't know that, you're going to end up being paying me. So it's 2 people that have 2 entities that have to qualify for that if you're doing a construction perm, right, on that end of it. So there's a construction loan that converts to permanent. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, and the main thing in finding a builder is what a lender's looking for is somebody who, it's not just somebody with a license. They want to see a history of completed projects.
Yeah.
Because because they're a Class A builder, but if they've never built a home before and they can't show a history of completion, it doesn't scream good faith that they're going to get this one done.
So when you were working for me, the way I used to do it is I had a $10 to $20 million line of credit, and I would just build a house on Jerry's lot. But here was the catch. You signed the property over to me, right? So I owned everything.
Until you paid.
The lender wanted that to happen. Then it becomes a normal loan for Scott, right? You're not doing a construction perm. We do Woody does the appraisal off of the plans, yada, yada, yada. You end up a thing. When we're done, I hand you a set of keys, you hand me a check. You don't hand me a check, I turn around and sell the house to somebody else.
So yeah, I do that with there's several.
Very few people do that anymore because you can't get that.
Well, and a lot of local builders don't have a $10 million line of credit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't get them anymore.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay.
So Jefferson Home Builders in Culpeper is one. They have just the back end capital. They don't. It's not even a line of credit. They've got.
They use their own cash.
Yeah, and they do it because they don't want to deal with waiting on draws from a bank.
Yep.
They'll build the house. If you own the land, they take a lien. They take a pre-approval from me that they consider as a loan commitment. They build the house. You buy the house at the end.
But you can count that on less than one hand.
I do it with some of the manufactured home companies.
Yep.
Clayton is one where I will send them a loan
That's a
commitment.
different world.
I'll send them a loan commitment. They'll buy the land from you after they've reviewed the loan commitment, and then place the house, do the well, septic, foundation, place the home, and then you buy it turnkey at the end.
And that may be a little bit of a solution here.
It is. It's
right?
People are still, surprised at how much that costs, but
If you're looking for a deal, that's not the case.
Yeah. But at the
But
same
it gets
time,
you done, though. It gets you to
It
an
does.
ownership. It gets you into a home, and it works. And there's very limited selections and so forth and so on.
But
it
I'm
gets
also
you a home.
amazed at the appraised value. So, when you're talking about a manufactured home on 5 acres that appraises at $350,000, it's a new world, baby.
It's $350,000.
Woody Fincham says to Jeff, you're watching on Twitter. Woody is responding to you on I Love Seville Instagram or I Love Seville Facebook group. He said tradespeople are much more expensive these days, and that's why the cost of construction has gone up so much. Also, land, dirt itself, because it's so finite and supply is so tight when it comes to land acquisition, has gotten quite more expensive over the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, you're buying a piece of dirt that's buildable in Albemarle County. I mean, an acre, $250,000 easy.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's probably light.
Yeah, I would
for the
say.
few that are left, that's probably light.
I'd say $250,000 for a half acre.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, and find a half acre in Albemarle County.
Well, you can't because
you got
well,
maybe 1, 2.
That
the-
is
well, the
mine.
problem-
I'm just
the problem with
blown
that-
away by that.
Less.
the problem
less in
with that
Charleston.
is because you've got to really be about 2 acres, because when you start less than that, you need central water and sewer, right? So
That's the position I'm trying to suggest
Yeah.
to the client here with 3 lots that are a couple acres and change, ready to rock and roll, already subdivided, locked and loaded, some site work done.
yep.
I mean,
But just to point that out, if you're on a less than 2 acre lot, it's really, really, really hard.
I mean, and you can't even find it.
It's really hard to practically put. I think it's back to the upzoning in the city of Charlottesville, right? In order to hit the requirements to turn a single-family detached lot into 4 or 5 units, it's just extremely difficult. I've got 7 clients that were looking at property to do that, and we have not been able to find anything that actually meets the 4 corners of what they're going to approve, what we think they're going to approve, because the math just doesn't work. Right?
Scott Morris and Keith Smith are crushing it. Scott Thorpe, the commercial broker, has got a comment.
Hey.
He says, one of the huge losses caused by 2008 is the number of independent small builders.
Oh, without doubt.
The ones that do 4 to 15 houses per year in our area. That loss of those builders coincided with the large mass builders arriving in our area. And
I can
that
speak to
pretty
that.
much crushed the small builder. And now we need the small builder more than ever because all the projects that we have left, Scott, you made the program better throughout the whole day. The projects we have left are small builder projects. And the small builders are gone.
Yes and no. There's 2 things out there. The Stanley Martin's one of our great
We love
sponsors.
Stanley Martin's, yeah.
Sponsors here will continue to work on big projects because they have the ability to do that. They have the runway to do it in time, and they will continue to do that.
We're talking the onesies and twosies.
It's an immediate need, right? So the immediate need is the small to medium builder, and whoever commented on it's 1,000% right. I got caught up in that.
Scott
I'm an exact. That's exactly what happened. We were a small to medium builder, lost $17 million, and we never came back, and wasn't going to come back to it. And all these other small builders never came back. And then you have the medium to large guys or gals, and that's it. It's
Sloane's
hard.
watching in Richmond, and she says, to Jerry's point, our home right now can rent for nearly $5,000, and our monthly nut on our home with utilities is $32.
Yeah. And if that math works for you and you can manage it and buy another piece of property, God bless you. That's what Yona and I do. At one point in time at Lake Monticello, we had 14 rentals. And we used to only rent them out to JAG folks.
Smart.
And then we missed a cycle and then got non-JAG folks in there. And then that's exactly what happened. And we were very lucky, knock for Micah. 2003, 2004, we sold everything because we just didn't want to deal with the headaches because we didn't have Suzanne Real in our life at that point, and got out and was lucky to get out and happy to get out of it at that particular time.
Well, if you look at, I think the Travel Nurse, they've got like a
Yeah,
thing
that's changing,
that,
by the way.
yeah, they've kind of moved their whole prospecting out of Charlottesville, and they're trying to put people over in the Valley.
Yeah, the Travel Nurse wants a very hot tenant commodity. If the market has shifted.
Big time.
The likelihood of getting the Travel Nurse and the high dollar rent that comes with the Travel Nurse is evaporating in this
Very
market.
quickly.
If you're a
Very
travel
quickly.
nurse that's out there and wants to buy a home, please reach out to me because I understand your complicated income.
Well said, Scott Morris.
Good for you.
The Travel
High
Nurse
five, man.
makes a boatload of money.
Yeah.
Comments, put them in the feed. We will relay them live on air. Bill McChesney and Nicholas Erpy giving Keith and Scott Morris some props right now. Sarah Hill Buchensky, hello. Lisa Costello, JJ Bean, hello. Lauren Keswick, hello. Vanessa Parkhill, hello, and welcome to the program. Dr. John, hello. Brent Lillard, hello. Tracy Green, hello, and welcome to the show. Jim Wickower, watching the program over there, the real estate investor himself. Johnny Snow, biceps getting huge over there. You're putting in the work and you're getting the gains, John Snow. Love when you watch the program, one of Ross Mortgage's finest. Keith Smith, Johnny Ornalis watching the program.
Hey, Johnny, brother.
Neil Williamson, the Goldilocks effect on the Free Enterprise Forum. He says convert the commercial in Albemarle County to residential, and that solves the density or the inventory crisis we're in now.
If it were only that simple.
That's what Keith said on Monday.
So, Charlottesville actually doesn't have it that bad when it comes to that. I think there's probably more opportunity than there are most places. But if you look like at Richmond or any place, any city that has the glass buildings, any city that has some of the building structure and standard that went into creating those commercial spaces, it's going to be extremely costly to even try to convert them into residential units.
He would demolish them.
He's got a call to action, Neil Williamson, on the Free Enterprise Forum.
Then it doesn't.
Well, I mean, listen,
Pencil it.
on Monday he said, first the call to action from Neil Williamson on the Free Enterprise Forum, it's called Albemarle Tear Down This Wall. He's got a Ronald Reagan reference, a Cold
good
War
Lord.
speech reference,
Could
a
it be
Mikhail
like Albemarle
Gorbachev,
tear down this red tape?
a Mikhail Gorbachev reference. And Neil's very much in favor of the zoning code being tweaked to allow the opportunity to take commercial
So let's pick
real
that up.
estate into residential.
So let's pick that apart. That's a low-hanging fruit. That's something that the Board of Supervisors could easily do. Now, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to move the needle? That's a different conversation.
Well, I mean, he said on Monday that if you wanted to buy Albemarle Square, he predicts the value of Albemarle Square, if someone made an offer to the current owners, it would have to be $200 million
At least.
if you want to buy Albemarle Square. That's where
And
the
then
ACAC
convert
is.
it.
No, and then he says after you buy it for
He's
$200
me.
million, you have to tear it down.
He's me.
Keith Smith said on Monday, it's $200 million to buy it, and then you're going to tear it down and then have to build from scratch.
So I agree with Neil. Low-hanging fruit. Let's get the zoning changed so it's allowed, right? Look, if it's going to require two things to move forward. Again, using Neil's own words. Word number thing, you got to have a ready, willing, and able seller, property
Yeah.
owner. I can assure you that the folks that own Albemarle Square are not going to take something unless it's got a 2 in front of it.
Okay, so if they
Second-
get $200 million, they would sell it.
The second.
That's what you're saying.
The second. Well, I don't know. I haven't had the conversation with them, but I know well enough to know that that's what the value is going to be because we penciled it out what other properties sold for and so forth and so on.
Okay.
Woody would know way more
What do you pitch him? What do you
pencil-
think the
to
market
pencil out.
value for Albemarle Square is right now?
But there's no motivation for him to do that. But the second thing that's required is what Neil's talking about. You can, Jerry, I got 200 million, you're ready to sell it, let's buy it, let's do it. But if the zoning isn't there, allowed to do it, I sure as hell
No one's
am
gonna do
not
it.
going through the zoning, paying $200 million for a piece of property and then spending, $500,000 or plus to rezone it only to get beat up for 6 years, right? I just won't do it. It's just, he's right. You need to allow it to happen first, then the market can start working. But if it's not allowed, it'll never happen.
Neil's call to action on the Free Enterprise Forum is very much encouraging the Planning Commission to make this change.
Yeah.
And one of the planning commissioners, Mr. Lonnie Murray, who we have tremendous respect for, is watching the show.
Yeah, it's low-hanging
while Neil
fruit.
is watching the show,
Yeah.
and we're talking about this
Yeah.
call to action.
Look, it's something you can. That would be like a chicken and egg kind of thing, right? You've got to have the zoning. So if the zoning is there, then the market folks can start having a conversation. Okay, the zoning is there, the playbook is there. Okay, Mr. Owner of Albemarle Square, what is it going to take? I can start not negotiating. What is it going to take for you to do this?
Neil says the ordinance change would allow a portion of a project to convert rather than the entire parcel.
Oh, okay.
So he's saying to you, you don't necessarily need to buy the entire parcel. Now you have a counter to that,
That
which
makes-
I know what your counter is. Tell us what the counter is.
That makes things 10 times more complicated.
Explain why.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example.
Developer, what is developer?
Control everything.
There
Yeah,
you go.
right.
I know I taught
You're
you
thinking
something.
about this as the businessman that I learn from on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I'll put it in perspective with a project that a lot of people have
Developer
been targeting.
101,
It's
control everything.
Yeah. University Shopping Center on Ivy Road, next to Ivy Square Shopping Center. Ivy Square Shopping Center, which is the home of Foods of All Nations, sold to the University of Virginia for $20 million. The University Foundation, by all accounts, probably overpaid for this, but they were willing to overpay because their riches all get out,
And they
needed to control it.
And they
needed it.
They needed to control
They
it.
wanted to end the negotiations, so they said, "We'll give you $20 million and a bag. Give us the buildings." That's
And
what
some
happened.
lollipops.
Give us some lollipops. The building, the shopping center right next door to Ivy Square, is arguably one of the most coveted shopping centers in
Is that where
Albemarle
Foods of All
County.
Nations is?
It's the one
Over
next
there?
to it.
Okay.
It's a University Shopping Center. Where
So
the
that's
Papa, where the Papa John's
where
is.
where the really good sushi place used to be.
Sushi King, or no, Tokyo Rose.
Tokyo Rose. There
Okay,
you go.
Tokyo Rose was there.
Yeah.
The tennis shop, Lou Stevens tennis
Really good
shop is
tattoo
there.
shop used to be
Yeah,
there.
there used to be a tattoo shop right next to the car wash.
Not that I know anything about tattoo
Here's the
shops.
problem with the University Shopping Center. It's an HOA commercial
Yeah.
shopping center.
Yeah.
Hunter Craig, we know that name well, has started buying some units over years, decade plus in that shopping
And he
center.
controls the HOA.
He does not.
Well, when he
Right
gets
now, it's splintered among 3 or 4 owners. And those 3 or 4 owners are trying to get control of the HOA and the shopping center, because then that's a gold mine.
So if
but
you
this is
ever-
the point that you made. There's 3 or 4 owners in it. As a result, no one's bought it.
Yeah. So I'm in the middle of trying to close a cash deal that's a commercial project that has 12 owners in it. And if you see me twitching when I'm walking around, it's because of that. It is hard.
Well, you twitch normally. It's very hard. So basically,
Thank you, Jerry.
but
Appreciate
what we're saying is,
You're
doing
not
it-
leaving on Friday by any chance, are you?
I am leaving on Friday. Doing a portion of the project is more challenging than the whole thing. Is your point?
Yeah. Look, if the call to action and Neil and this can work it through, it's a good thing, right? It's a small bite at the, almost said elephant, small bite at the apple, right? It's a good thing. But I can tell you from a practical perspective, you want to control it, because then it becomes very complicated on how, who controls what and who's got authority over what. It just becomes this weird thing. It's much better to own it and control it. And the second rule of Developer 101 is to control everything else around you.
He says existing owners could control everything and still convert a portion.
Yeah, they could do that. So we were looking at it from an acquisition perspective. The existing thing could do that.
I got the
I know a little
response
bit
to
about.
that.
I know a little bit about the Albemarle County, Albemarle owner. Come on, the help me out. Where?
You gotta give me a little more than that.
Yeah, I know, Smith. Hold on a second. Albemarle Shopping Center.
Almost Square?
Albemarle Square. Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah.
That owner is more than likely never going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
There has to be a change of ownership in order for that to happen.
Where we're seeing some of this happen.
Did I do that okay?
Yeah, you did that okay. Is Great Eastern Management with the Seminole Square Shopping Center.
Now they would do something.
Well, that's happening.
Yeah.
A portion of Seminole Square is being converted to apartments.
Yeah, I believe they went through I believe they went through some sort of rezoning process.
Is that like a really big money people who are creating more rental units instead of like that's the thing that I keep going? Yeah.
But how many years has that been in the pipe?
Oh, long time.
But that's what I'm saying.
Long time.
It got to be 5 or 6 years.
Well, I mean, how about this? The Dairy Market, friend of the program, Chris Henry,
Yeah.
Stony Point, he is doing phase 2 of the Dairy Market development on the Fifth Seasons and Rockfish Brewing Company location, and he wants to bring apartments to Charlottesville. This was always the plan. And part of getting approval here is you have to notify the neighborhood, you have to send a notice in the mail, and you have to have a community center meeting.
Yep.
Yesterday they did the community center meeting at the church that Chris also owns next to Dairy Market. And the community came out by the dozens, if not more, and was vehemently opposed to this.
Of course.
Although it was always the plan.
Sure.
This was always the plan. So here's the point I'm making is,
So
it's like, why do it if you're getting this response?
So Scott and I had a text conversation about the apartments at Colonial Circle
In Fluvanna.
in Fluvanna County, right? That is what's being built has always been the plan. It's been the plan and publicly talked about and out in the public space for 6 years. None of it's changed.
It's always been the plan.
But
Now they're building it.
when you start going vertical and people can see it, it becomes a very different thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's this whole chatter about that it's only apartments. Well, no, it's not. There's 200 single-family attached and detached homes coming in, or 80,000 square feet of commercial, but that takes time to get built. But that's what's happening over there.
So here's
on a
the
piece of
most
paper, it looks good.
Curious thing about where they put that. So
What are we talking about now?
Colonial Circle
Okay.
in Fluvanna. The most curious thing about where they put that is that it almost in no way is going to benefit the county. The fact that they approved it and allowed it and all the things is shocking to me because no one who lives there is going to shop there. All that money is going to get spent in Charlottesville.
But that's the case anyway.
I understand, but you could have at least done something like,
Mixed use.
put something on the opposite side of the lake to where they got to drive past Food Line instead of go deeper in the county if they're going to choose to go.
So part of the reason that's there is the roundabout. So that roundabout got installed because the property owner gave the property to it. There was a lot of, as you know, deaths.
I get it.
Deaths
but
at that
yeah.
intersection. Yeah, well, it went through the process. It got approved, and it's getting built. Nice smile, by the way.
I got a lot of text messages coming in here on what we're talking about.
Nice smile.
I love Scott.
88%, just as you guys were talking, I'm just digging through the 137 pages of it. 88% of people between 33 and 42 years old want a single-family detached house.
Yeah, and anybody who lived through government-mandated COVID wants a single family.
Isn't that everybody?
Yeah, well,
2%.
Is that your point?
yeah.
2% only want to live in a duplex apartment condo of 2 to 4 unit buildings.
Michael
Wasn't
Guthrie,
2%.
hello, welcome to the
Hey,
show.
Michael. I'm sorry, I lied to you. It's 1% of that age group, 33. So that's like the prime millennial buying thing. 88% want. That's the highest group, by the way. The lowest group is my age.
What do you make of that?
Ancient. Yeah, I mean, if I could get a duplex with a master bedroom, a primary suite on the first floor, and somebody cuts the grass and all that stuff, and I got a place for my boat and my toys, I'm all in.
Well, have you guys decided
No.
that you're going to
No,
rent
stop,
your
stop,
house?
stop.
Isn't that what you recently decided?
Yeah, so that's what I decided. I don't know if Mrs. Smith decided that, but that's what I would do.
Johnny,
Much like the conversation we've been having, that's exactly what I would do. I've got enough equity in the home.
that's my point.
Yeah, but I'm a.
But you're saying you're an anomaly and you're not the norm.
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
well, I'm at a certain point in my life, right? Right? It's just two people. We're at.
So he's basically saying he's going to rent his house and
That's
then
what I
buy
want to do.
another house.
Yona does not want, and I'll probably lose that one.
This is what Scott is saying.
Yeah. But is there hundreds of thousands of us going to do that? So the answer is no. It's not a huge amount.
Do you think? And here's the other piece
I
of
don't
that
think so.
puzzle. It's not just them saying no; it's their kids saying no.
Yeah.
Going, well, why are you going to do that instead of whatever
Literally, Yasmina and Yvonne are exactly saying that at the kitchen table.
What are they saying?
They say, Dad, what are you, nuts?
What?
Just sell the damn thing, take out the cash, and go buy and live someplace else. And my answer is no, I want to retain ownership of it, right? The equity is going to continue to grow. I've got the fiscal ability to do it, right? And then knock on Scott's door and say, here's X amount of dollars, this is what I'm going to buy, give me a loan. But I'm in a different world.
I get that because you're in the game.
Well, not only am I in the game, but I'm at that point in my life, right, that I can do that. I can tell you 20 years ago I couldn't do it. I was broke 20
Well,
years.
3 or 4 years ago, it was the COVID effect. And 3 years, 4 years, the COVID effect has caused homes to appreciate 30 to 50% in value.
And Michael Guthrie knows this, and thank you to Michael Guthrie, because when we started working with Michael,
Roger Voisin's
we
watching
were
the show.
we were at zero. I mean, we were like at zero income. So to him and everybody over there, they helped us move on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Boys, we're winding down, hitting 11:30. Time flies when you're having fun.
11:25. Hey, Roger.
Where
Where in the world are you right now, Roger? He's
Roger's
always
in
wandering.
town. Roger's in town. You
but-
sent me
he was going to-
a little lowdown on 100 acres on Piney Mountain.
I thought he was going to Canada.
He's listening to us right now. Some closing thoughts, boys. Anywhere you want to go?
Well, let's see what the Fed does today
2
and
o'clock.
how it affects things. My take is that they're going to preach a data-dependent forecast going forward, and that another rate hike is on the table. They do, and I'm leaning more into the fact that they may add one more increase that I thought they did not have in them, just to put a lid on the pot, as Jerry said earlier, to try to snuff out inflation. The last thing they want is for it to come back and them have to move even further ahead than they expect to go. So let's see what happens there. It's highly anticipated by me for this afternoon.
Say hi to Ludwig Kutner. Hello.
Hey, Ludwig. Guten Morgen, my friend.
I saw him on riding a Vespa on High Street today.
He's pretty cool.
Riding a Vespa on High Street, Ludwig. You look super cool. I was slightly worried about you without the helmet on, but you know more about life than I do, and you look sharp on that.
And he's
Vespa.
German, so there you go.
Yeah.
So my closing thing is I just took a look at what, as in the last 3 days in the car footprint since Monday, how many units, how many homes are actually sold and closed. There was 26. To your point, homes are being bought and sold. So if you're in the market, reach out to Scott, reach out to any one of the realtors that are watching, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help you do the trusted advisors. But in the last 3 days, 34 went pending. So that means people are putting contracts on their houses. That means people are closing houses. Now, only 15 came on the market since Monday, which is not a huge number, but there are folks that are buying and selling at 7%. You know, it's difficult, but this is when you get trusted advisors to help you across the table and pull down Real Talk with Keith Smith Partners. There's a bunch of them on there to help you get across the table. One of them in particular sitting to the right of me to make some magic happen, because if you can't get your pre-qual put together, you're not making a deal happen anyway.
I like it. Scott Morris, Ross Mortgage. I'll say it again. Scott Morris of Ross Mortgage. That's who you should reach out to get to the finish line on a vacation property, a refinancing, or a home purchase. Judah Wickower, the director. Keith Smith of Yes Realty Partners. I'll let the Real Talk audience know about this. I am on hiatus at the beach.
You are taking a vacation.
Until Sunday, August 6th. I'm leaving Friday morning, and the family and I are heading to the beach returning Sunday, August 6th. So Real Talk with Keith Smith. Real Talk is going to have, Keith Smith's going to have carte blanche. Slightly nervous
Who, me?
about that.
Not really.
No?
I'm
I'm slightly nervous.
I'm taking a vacation too. So
I'm
I just
slightly
decided
nervous.
I'm taking
I'm slightly nervous.
Oh, you don't realize I booked a Airbnb right next to you.
No, where we're staying, there's no Airbnbs, my friend. Keith, Scott, Judah, and Jerry on Real Talk, archived at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Thank you kindly for joining us. I love Steve.
You're more nervous than I am about this.
No, I'm actually not that nervous. I'm super excited.
I am too.
We will be back on air in 1 hour. Take care.
I'm super happy for you, man.
Thank you.
You and your family.
We should get an updated photo.